Chance? Anne, sit down. I'm sure she's coming back. That's got to be just a coincidence. So as many of you know, perhaps even most of you know, my name is Sarah Bowen. Believe it or not, I actually attend here. You might recognize me, you might not. I typically spend my Sunday mornings in other churches speaking about the ministry of Alpha Omega Center and sharing about what we're doing in the community and how we're helping those around us. Elise, you're running the slides, right? Okay.
Hey, Sarah.
What? I thought...
Sarah.
He's not supposed to be here.
Hey, I'm up here. Sarah, hi. Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm sure you are.
And I know you were just getting ready to preach, but I just wanted to say this to the entire church. As your pastor, I am so thankful. Last week, we took up an offering to help support our benevolence fund, to be able to provide some relief for those in our church community and the surrounding community that might be struggling and might need just a little bit of help. Maybe with some medical bills, or to pay for an electric bill, or to help pay their rent for the week, to maybe buy them some supplies in order to be able to just survive, or maybe some groceries. And in First UB Church, you stepped up in an amazing way last week and gave over $2,500 above and beyond the normal offering. You gave over $2,500 to the benevolence fund, that we might be able to share the love of Christ in practical ways, to hopefully open the door to be able to share the gospel, the saving life in Jesus Christ. And so, guys, I'm so proud of you, and I just want to say thanks so much. And on top of that, we gave out a challenge we had heard some people in our community that were sleeping on the floors in their apartments or in their homes, and so just put out a general plea. Hey, if you have a bed frame, if you have a bed, if you have a box spring, if you have a mattress, if you're willing to donate some bedding and some pillows and stuff like that. And all told, last week, we were able to respond to at least 2 of the immediate needs with complete beds. And we also have a list of 4 or 5 other people that are willing to donate box springs and frames and everything else like that. And so we're going to continue to come to you as a church, because we know that that's what God is stirring in our hearts. We know that we are a church that wants to respond with the benevolent love of God to our community, so that we can share the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so, church, I want to say thanks so much. Sarah, sorry for the interruption. But I'm going to turn it back over to you, and I'm praying that the Holy Spirit is received in a powerful way this morning. God bless, and I'll see you soon.
He's supposed to be at man camp. Apparently, he's in his office, and we didn't even know. So I speak in a lot of churches because that's what keeps Alpha Omega Center running. It's the donations of churches and individuals in our community. And so I'm really happy to be here this morning among my church family. I'm happy to share with you a little bit about what the ministry is doing, and then also a message that God has laid on my heart. And of course, unlike what maybe appeared from the video, Pastor Mark is not here this morning. I'm like waiting for him to jump back in. He's at man camp with a bunch of other gentlemen, my husband included, and so we're very grateful that they have the chance to get away a little bit, and we'll be happy when he's back. So let's open really quick in prayer, and then we'll jump in. Father, I just want to thank you for this morning. I want to thank you for this church and for their heart for you and for these children. I thank you for the ministry that you've given us through Alpha Omega Center, and I just ask you to bless it and to honor it. Father, I ask you to guide my words this morning. Help me to share the message that you have given to me, and help it to be received by those in this room. In your name we pray, amen. All right, so before I get into the message, like I said, I want to share an update about what God's been doing at Alpha Omega Center. This logo behind me is probably the one that you're familiar with. We've been calling ourselves Alpha Omega Center for about 10 years now, although lately it's become a little bit of a problem. As God has been growing our ministry and helping us to increase and add national and even international ministries, we've found that we're putting our clients at risk by using the name Alpha Omega Center for all of our ministries. There are a lot of very angry, very violent people who oppose what we do. And it's been proven nationwide that when a pregnancy center puts themselves out there on a national scale, they could attract negative attention to their physical location. And we don't really want our clients to interact with protesters, to be yelled at. We don't want to be hit with dozens of fake reviews every week. And these are things that are happening to other pregnancy centers, and we don't want that for us. So what we're doing is we're rebranding our overall name and changing it to Promise of Life Network, which you can see behind me. Yes, you can. And we're going to reserve the name Alpha Omega Center just for our medical services clients. So our clients are still going to know us as Alpha Omega Center. You're still going to see that name on our building, on a lot of our promotional material. But when we're talking to churches, when we're out talking to when we're doing our national stuff, it's all going to be under the name Promise of Life Network. It's still us. We're not changing the people. We're not changing the mission. We're not changing the vision. We're just trying to add a little bit of protection to make sure that our clients aren't in trouble or aren't being affected by some of these other ministries that we're doing. And if you have any questions about that, please talk to me after the service. As most of you know, we provide pregnancy testing, ultrasound scans, STD testing and treatment, parenting education, material assistance, abstinence education, and post-abortive education and healing as part of our ministry. In 2019, we had 66 babies saved from abortion, which is really exciting. I mean, that's a lot of babies. I try not to think about it because I sort of envision like these just rows of babies like laying on the floor. And thankfully they don't bring them to us and expect us to take care of them. But that means that 66 mothers who were considering abortion or who were at risk for abortion chose life. And if you have questions about that program, I'd be happy to answer them, but you're probably better off talking to Laura Foster, who also attends here because she manages all of that. So I feel like sometimes people give me a little bit too much credit just because I'm the one standing up here. She does most of the real work, let's put it that way. Her and Susie also. Susie Dambaugh also attends here, and she works as our bookkeeper. And if we didn't have her, we really wouldn't function because I can barely do basic math. So we're very grateful for both of them. So this first image is not a client, it's a stock image, but it's an image I want to share with you because it sort of shows you that not all of our clients are these first-time moms. I was on Facebook the other day, first mistake, and someone posted like, if we could just keep teens from having sex, we wouldn't have abortion. And that's not really accurate because a lot of the women who feel pressured to choose abortion, who feel like they have no other option, already have children. They're not first-time moms, they're not teen moms. They're older, they're usually between 20 and 29, and they're struggling. One woman that we saw at the end of last year already has children, and she found out that she was pregnant again, and she was panicking. The baby's father was pushing her very, very hard to abort, and she came in and talked to us, and she was stressed. Like you could just see on her face. She was not feeling good that day. And so we talked to her, we did an ultrasound. She still was really not sure what she wanted to do. And so she left, and we prayed for her. And of course, this is all happening over Christmas break. And we're like, hey, if you need us, text us, we'll come in, no big deal. Well, we didn't hear from her, and we were worried. Then the first day back in the office, she came in, and her whole face had changed. And we didn't see that stress and that anxiety anymore. She was open, she was smiling, she was relaxed, and she told us, you know what, I'm going to have my baby. And so those are the kinds of stories that we hear because of the support of churches like this one. Women that are really like, abortion is my only choice, I don't have another option, I don't know what to do. And then once they have the chance to hear about resources, to see their baby on ultrasound, to hear about the development of the child, and to hear that we're really there for them in a practical way, we see 95% of them choose life for their children. And that's really exciting. Another interesting thing, and this is part of why we're changing our name, is we're starting a new international ministry. So we didn't do it on purpose. If you can have an accidental international ministry, we did. We started a website called athomeabortionfacts.com. And this website is designed to reach women who are considering an at-home abortion or a do-it-yourself abortion. Believe it or not, those are increasing in frequency. They're becoming much more trendy. And there's over 80 websites where women can purchase these pills and take them at home. Now we know not only is that not great for the baby, obviously, but it's really bad for the mother. And so we put together a website to talk about the dangers and the risks and to refer women to real help that will give them real options. What we didn't expect was to pick up so many people from overseas. And so last year we had, between August and December, we had 41 contacts from overseas. The majority of those contacts were from Africa, and most of those were in the southern part of Africa. And through that ministry, through that website, and through messaging them and chatting with them online, we have 2 of them that confirmed chose life for their babies after talking to us, and about 70% of them at least accepted a referral to a pro-life pregnancy center in their region. So that's really, really interesting. It's very cool, and it's also on the rise. So we had 40 contacts all last year. We're not even through February yet, and we've already had almost 50. And so those numbers are going to continue to go up. And now we're not just seeing Africa, we're seeing Asia, we're seeing some islanders, we're seeing Europe, and we're picking up people from a lot of different areas, and we're very excited to talk to them, but we're also struggling because there aren't always resources available for them. So it's not as easy as, hey, fly over and come visit our office. We might be trying to talk to someone who's in the middle of the bush, and they have to go an hour to get to a pregnancy center. And so it's a very difficult thing, and we appreciate your prayers. Over last year, we had 72 families helped with 739 parenting appointments. Those are all families in our community. That's baby Gage behind me. He is so cute. He has the best little dimples. And every single one of those families was able to come in and do a lesson on parenting, to learn about the gospel, to be encouraged to attend church, and to also to experience the love of Christ firsthand by meeting with our staff and meeting with our team. In addition, in the 2018 to 2019 school year, we saw over 2,000 students for the message of abstinence. And if you have any questions about that, I'd encourage you to talk to Hannah Coons, because she actually got to sit in on one of our lessons, and she found it to be absolutely mortifying. So I'm sure that she would enjoy the opportunity to talk to you more one-on-one about that. You're welcome, Hannah. Yeah, she got to see me this week too. I came to Newcastle Christian Academy to talk about pro-life, and when I walked in, you could just see her whole face was like, not again. I knew I should have told Mom I was sick this morning. So this is what's happening at Alpha Omega Center. If you have any questions about any of that, please let me know. I don't want to linger a ton on our services or what we do, because I know most of you know that. But I would love to talk to you personally if you have more questions, if you do want to know more about the ministry. I do want you to know that we work to share the gospel with every client that we can. We work to give out Bibles to every client that wants one. And we work to pray with and pray for everyone that comes through our doors. And so this ministry is very much an arm of this church and many other churches reaching out into our community in a very practical way. I love my job. I love what I do. Anyone who talks to me for 5 minutes probably knows that. I'm passionate about it, I believe in it, and I love the approach and how we work with our community. Our approach is a little bit different. It's a little bit unique. When I share specifically about our parenting program, I often paraphrase part of James chapter 2, specifically verse 16. This idea that if we tell someone to be warmed and filled, but we don't give them what they need, we're really not doing anything at all. If a client comes into our office and she says, I want to have an abortion, I can't do this, and Laura says to her, well, that's wrong, you shouldn't do it, and that's the end of the conversation, we're not really doing anything, because we're not offering to be there for them in a real way. We're not offering them resources. We're not offering them help. We're not saying, hey, we're here for you. We're going to walk with you through this. Let's take a look at that passage together today, because I feel like I gloss over it a lot. I mention it in passing a lot, but really I've never taken the time in a setting like this to sit down and really study it. So I'm going to have it on the screen, but feel free to look it up in your own Bible. James chapter 2, verses 15 through 18. If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. Did you know that there are people in our community who are as the passage says, naked and destitute of daily food. Or we might just say naked and hungry. Yeah, there are. And that might come as a shock to us, living here in America, living in Western Pennsylvania. Like, there's no way there's people in our community that don't have enough to wear, don't have clothes to wear, don't have food to eat. But they're out there. In fact, one of the items that we are most constantly in need of is diapers. And if you have a baby without a diaper, I don't care what else he's wearing, you had a naked baby on your hands. Because that's going to be a problem within about 20 to 30 minutes. If you've ever had a baby, if you've ever bought a pack of diapers, you know that diapers are expensive and babies go through a lot of them. And a lot of people will say to me, well, why don't they use cloth diapers? You could buy a cloth diaper once and you could use it over and over again. And I totally understand that. We actually did that with 2 of our kids. But a lot of our clients aren't in a place where they're able to use those cloth diapers. They don't have access to a washing machine, or they're using a shared washing machine. I don't know if you'd want to share a washing machine with someone who was using cloth diapers. Gary doesn't, I can tell right now from his face. And so disposables really are their only option. And we run short on a regular basis. Because every client that comes in, what's your primary need? Diapers. Without a diaper, you have a naked baby. We also provide wipes, baby clothes, blankets, hats, coats, gloves. We provide formula, baby food. We provide help with breastfeeding. That's another way to make sure that babies are fed. We provide maternity clothing. We provide all kinds of things that these people need, these children need, their families, because that's part of our faith. There's no way for us to offer them the information to tell them this is a wrong choice, you need to carry your baby to term, and then not offer them the practical help that they need to actually make that choice and run with it. If we didn't, why would they listen to us? If they came in and all we said was, yeah, you should choose life, that's really important, abortion is wrong. Why would they ever listen to anything we said? Because it doesn't mean anything, right? This is a really simplistic example. And you're probably sitting there thinking, well, yeah, Sarah, that makes sense, and that's great that your ministry does that, but why are you talking to me about this? Because it goes much deeper than just one organization or one church or one group offering help to people. It's all of us, and how do we live out our faith? How do we put feet to our faith? How do we show up to work? I know Pastor Dave used to always say that prayer is showing up with your tool belt on. And I think sometimes we forget that. We separate prayer from doing good works. We separate faith from doing what God has called us to do. This passage in James goes a lot deeper than handing out diapers and wipes. And it goes a lot deeper than supporting an organization like Alpha Omega Center who does those things. It's something that each and every one of us needs to embrace in our daily lives. So the question that usually people start to ask about this point is, are we saved by works, Sarah? Is that what you're saying? No. You're like, man, Pastor Mark, you left on man camp and Sarah's up there speaking heresy. You're not saved by works. Works is not what saves you. You can't do enough good things to get yourself into heaven. And you also aren't saved by faith and works. So don't think that like you have your faith and then you have to go out and do good works. And if you don't do the good works, God's going to like take your salvation away. All right, salvation is by faith. I'm not trying to say that it isn't. So please, please, please hear me. If you don't hear anything else today, hear. I'm not saying that you get to heaven by doing good works. And that's not what James is telling us either. God isn't looking over our shoulder with a ledger book saying, whoops, you didn't do enough good things in your life, guess you're not getting in the door. That's not how it works. And that's not what James is telling us. James is telling us that our good works grow out of our faith. I recently got a commentary from Wilbur. I called him the commentary fairy because he was giving them out. It was fantastic. You should totally meet up with him later and see if they're like in his car. Like I was like, hey, Wilbur, this has been a struggle of mine. He's like, I have a commentary in my car for you. And I'm like, who has a commentary in their car? It's amazing. You should go out there and see what else is in there. It could be a trampoline, could be, just tell Wilbur what your big struggle is. He's going to open up his back seat and things will fall out. I'm going to ask for a pony next. He gave me a commentary by John Corson, and John Corson said, and I thought this was really helpful, that we are saved by faith that works. That's what saves us. Faith that is so real that we can't help but get out there and do something. Later in the text, and we won't look at this today, but James uses Abraham as an example of faith that is shown by works. When Abraham was ready to offer Isaac as a sacrifice, he was justifying his faith. The New Living Translation tells us that he was shown to be right with God. Abraham's offering, or almost offering, of Isaac isn't what saved him. What saved him was faith that compelled him to obey God, even up to sacrificing his son. Faith without works is dead and useless. I know this is a really uplifting message this morning. I really struggled with this when I felt like God was asking me to share this. I'm like, man, I'm going to get people are going to throw stuff at me. They're going to be like, please never invite Sarah back to speak because she made us all feel terrible. But I struggle with it too. Faith without works, it's dead. That's what James is telling us. We're not saved by our works, but James is very clear about the value of faith that isn't accompanied by works. It's dead. The New Living Translation says it's useless. If we're saved just so that we come to church, hang out with our friends, toss $20 in the offering plate maybe once in a while, and then go on with our lives, then our faith really doesn't mean much. It's not alive. It's not vibrant. It's not changing how we live, and it's not changing people around us. We might feel good about attending church. We might enjoy helping out our friends and family, and we might even contribute to a good cause now and then. But that's not the kind of faith that moves mountains and changes communities. You see, it isn't the works itself. It's not doing the works that changes us. It's having a faith that causes us to step out into something that might seem crazy, that might seem just out of control to the general population. But when you have that kind of faith, you just do it. I will show you my faith by my works. That's what James tells us. This is a photo of some Grove City students that took the time out of their day to hand out items on Slippery Rock University's campus. They could have stayed home in their dorm. They could have said they were too busy studying. College is important. I'm not saying it isn't, and studying is good. They didn't. They came out when they could have done something else, and they walked around Slippery Rock's campus, and they handed out pens and lip balm and flyers to students who were in need. That simple act showed the quality of their faith. It showed us at Alpha Omega Center, and anyone else who cared to look, that they were embracing the pro-life ethic in a real and powerful way. Not just lip service. Not just because they were students at Grove City and the popular thing is to be pro-life. On their own, as adults. And this brings me to what I think is the most personal part of this passage for me, the most difficult part. But before I get to that, I want to ask you a question, and you can answer, it's okay. What do you think I hear is the number one reason for people to do good works? What's the reason that they give me? This is not like a scientific poll, this is just what I've heard. What's the number one reason to do good works? To get into heaven, that's possible. That's not what I'm looking for, but that's okay, Jim. Anything else? Why do we do good works, Christians? Why do we do it? How does it feel? To feel good, right? That's the primary reason I hear for doing good works. It feels good. Don't you just feel good? Come down to the food bank, it'll make you feel good. Go over to the homeless shelter, at the end you'll feel good. Come down to Alpha Omega Center and clean up some mulch, split a tree, pull some weeds, and at the end of the day, you'll feel good. That's okay. Doing good often feels good. At the end of the day, your muscles might ache, you might be tired, but you often have that warm, satisfied feeling that you get from doing a job. Not only just doing a job, but doing it well, and doing something that will impact people, possibly for eternity. But I think we have to stop and ask ourselves, what about when it doesn't feel good? Those Grove City students felt good that day. They walked around in the sunshine, they laughed with each other, they spent a couple hours doing an easy task that had a direct impact on people that they wanted to help. In fact, they were able to see that impact immediately because students were already calling to make appointments before they even got back to the office. And that's okay. But if I could be really honest with you today, and I think I can because you're my family, ministry doesn't always feel good. Doing good works consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, often does not feel great. Some days it does, but other days it's really, really hard. Some days you do your best, you try your hardest, and it just doesn't pan out. Some days you worry that you won't be able to raise the funds you need to provide services for the people that you'd most desperately want to help. Sometimes you question whether you're the right person for that position at all. I'm sure that Abraham did not feel good when he was ready to take his own son's life. Even though God intervened at the last minute, I am sure that he shook all over for hours, if not days, with the reality of what he was willing and ready to do. Another example that James gives us later in the chapter is Rahab, how she hid the spies. I'm sure she didn't feel good when she was doing that. She probably felt terrified. Not only was she putting her own life at risk, but probably the lives of her entire family. Because dictators don't really take a happy view of it when you subvert their plans or subvert their city. She might have felt a lot of things, but probably none of them were good. One example that I bring up really frequently when I talk, and it's something that Anthony and I are called to do, although not necessarily at this point in our lives, is foster care. Fostering is hard. Bringing a child into your home that's been through trauma, that's been through difficulty, that's not been treated well by life is extremely, extremely hard on a family, on a marriage, on yourself, and in some ways it's difficult for the child too. I mean, they have enough going on, and now they're in a new family that feels totally different than their normal. When we give feeling good as the primary reason for doing ministry, we cheapen the people that are doing ministry day to day that feel awful. Now, I'm not saying you should seek out a ministry that makes you feel terrible. Or you should come to volunteer at the church and be like, yeah, I taught those little kids and I felt great after. I need something new. Stinking little kids, give me some difficult kids. Give me somebody that really yells at me. No, it's okay to feel good, it's fine. But don't fall into the trap that if you're not feeling good, you're doing it wrong. Because once you get into ministry and you're doing that consistently and you're doing it all the time, there's going to be days where you just don't feel good. And that's okay. And it's not just me. At least I really hope it's not just me. It's not just people who are in full-time ministry. It could be teaching Sunday school. I've taught Sunday school for lots of different ages, and some days you walk away and you're on top of the world, and other days you have a little kid tell their parents that Jesus didn't really raise from the dead. Yeah, that happened. That is not what I told him. That's right, Sammy Scott, I'm talking to you. He's in high school now. I really hope he gets it by now. Some days you've been teaching Sunday school faithfully for decades, and you find out that a child that you invested hours and time and prayer and energy in has gone completely the wrong way. That's not going to feel good. And that brings me to this section that James tells us, where James says, I will show you my faith by my works. And Elise, if you could go back to the passage, let's look at that again. And I'm going to try and find it so I don't have to turn around. Okay, here we go. If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? What good is it? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works. I will show you my faith by my works. And this is the phrase that I've really been turning over and over in my head. What does that mean? I will show you my faith by my works. It's not a way to one-up people. It's not me coming up to you on Sunday morning and saying, well, I'm obviously a better Christian than you because I do more works than you. That's not what it means. That's not what James wants us to do. When I show someone my faith by my works, what it means to me is that the day-to-day ministering, working, sweating, fighting, crying, grieving, and struggling is my faith in action. It's me saying that I believe that God can make a difference in my clients' lives. That God can take the message of abstinence and he can pour it out on a heart of a child that has been completely hardened at 14 or 15 years old. And that he can turn that around. It's me believing that when someone comes in who's been raped and abused and beat up their entire lives, and they don't even want to talk to us because they're so angry and bitter, that God can change that. And it means that I believe that when someone comes into our parenting program and they've been living in a family that's been dependent on welfare for 4 generations, and they wouldn't know what a healthy relationship was if you hit them over the head with it, that God can redeem that. And he can bring a healthy, beautiful, loving, godly family out of it. And I think that sometimes, for some of us, we forget that. Like, yeah, we need to do good things. And it's good that you guys are down there in the city doing that, but are you really having an impact? I think my God can. I believe that he can. And that's why I'm willing to get up and do it every day. Because in my own strength, no. There's no impact. In our own strength, if we go down to the food bank and hand out food, we filled a belly for a day. In our own strength, if we volunteer with the kids in junior church or in Sunday school or in nursery, we're not really accomplishing anything. But when we let God give us that faith that moves mountains, that shakes up communities, that changes people's lives, then it pours out in these works that are going to have an impact on people around us. What I really believe is that when we're looking at these Save to Serve tags, or we're looking at volunteer opportunities in the church or in the community, it's easy to look and say, but that's not really making a big impact. That's not like what Laura does. That's not like what Sarah does. Well, you might look at Susie and say, well, you're just keeping the books. That's not really, that doesn't seem like it's that impactful. Well, if she didn't, the clients would come in and we wouldn't have heat or electricity or ink or a paycheck. Actually, I try not to think of all the things we wouldn't have because I start to feel a little bit panicky because frankly, I have no idea what she does. I just know it's really, really important. Because her faith tells her that when she comes in every day and she keeps those books right and she does the math right and she keeps everything balanced and accountable, that is having a direct impact on lives saved and changed. And she's right, because it is. Faith with works is alive. So if your faith is feeling kind of zombie-like this morning, like you kind of have to kick it in the butt to get it moving every day, it's sort of just laying there on the ground, kind of dusty, ask God to show you what works he wants you to do. And you will start to feel it come to life because you're going to start to see how he works in people around you. And like I said, I know I said that you can't go out and do it in your own strength, and I'm not suggesting that, but sometimes the actions and the obedience come before the emotions. So you might think, but I don't really know what I'm called to. I don't feel called to this, or I don't feel called to that, or I don't know what I'm supposed to. Just do something. And God will work it out for you. I promise. Sometimes you just got to step out and say, I'm going to do the right thing, even though I don't feel like I want to, and trust that God's going to make it work out in the end. Faith is it's vibrant, it's alive. It's what makes life worth living. It's intense, it's difficult, it's amazing. I promise that if you're sitting there thinking, man, I wish I had faith that sounded like that, you can. This isn't a special gift that God just gives to 1 or 2 people. I truly believe that this kind of faith is open to all of us. And it might look like something different in your life than it looks like in mine, and that's totally fine, but it's still there for you. God has it for you. My encouragement to you this morning is to let God bring your faith to life. Find something that he's called you to do, or just try something and see if it's what he's called you to do. Embrace it wholeheartedly. Don't stop and think, well, I'm too old. I won't look directly at anyone while I say that. Oh no, I looked at Dennis. You should have left. I'm too busy. My kids are too young. My kids are in the wrong grade. We have too much going on. I'm too young. God can't tell me what to do. I'm only 10, 11, or 12. I'm 90. What am I supposed to do? If you are still here on this earth and you're converting oxygen into carbon dioxide this morning, and I truly hope none of you have stopped doing that since I started speaking, God has something for you to do. Now, I can't speak to whether or not you can continue to do things at 98 years old, but I know that there's people maybe not here this morning, again, not making eye contact. There are people in our church who can. And I know for a fact that God has been using me to minister to people since I was a child. In fact, he called me to this pro-life work at 12. So if any of you are out there thinking, yeah, well, I'm just a kid, God can call you now. God can use you now. Just get out there. God will show you where he wants you, and he will show you what he wants to do. So where do you start? If you're sitting there thinking either one of two things. Please, Sarah, stop talking and go away. I promise I will very soon. Or you're thinking, wow, I really want to get involved. I want that faith. I want to grab onto that. I want to make a difference. Where do you start? If you want to get more involved in pro-life work, this is a great place to begin. No, go back one slide, sorry. This book, Courageously Pro-Life, Equipping Believers to Transform Our World, is one that we just released in October. It's something I've been working on for years. I actually first test taught it here with Pastor Dave years ago. And Pastor Mark, I don't know if it's 100%, but it looks like we're going to be teaching this over the summer here at our church, and this is the only time that I will be teaching the book that I wrote. I've been invited by a lot of churches, but I'm not really willing to be out of my own church for 12 weeks. But since this is my church and my family, and I really do like to be here, I'm more than happy to do it. So Mark and we're working on getting that set up for something that we can do over the summer. I would encourage each and every one of you to take part in that. Not just because I wrote it, not just because I'm teaching it, but because I really think that God has called me to bring this message to our church community. So if Sunday school is not something that you're really into, I would just challenge you to try it for 12 weeks. Just try it. And if you hate it, I'd offer you your money back, but I don't have any money, so you're getting literally nothing from me. But you can try it, and then if you don't like it, you can just tell me that you told me so. I'll knit you a hat. Yeah, the last thing I'm doing is offering unconditional money-back guarantees. That's not happening. I mean, I'll write you a very nice IOU. I'll knit it into your hat. If you don't want us to come for the Sunday school this summer, you can buy a copy yourself. You can read through it yourself. I'd love to sit down and chat with you about it over coffee. I mean, just let me know. I want to be available for you guys. If you want something that's more practical, that's more immediate, there are things you can do today. You can come up to me or Laura or Susie today and you can tell us, I want to get involved at Alpha Omega Center. Where do I start? How do I start living out my faith? The first thing we need, and I'm going to check because I changed the order. Can you go to the next? There we go. We need people who are willing to give. And if you go to this church and you contribute your finances to this church, which you should be doing if you attend here, then you're already supporting us because the church supports us. But if you feel that God is calling you to support us on another level and to support us personally, we're very much in need of donations. We run completely on private donations. We don't accept any money from the state or federal government. And so the donations of people like you in churches like this are what keep us going. We also need people who are willing to pray. And I don't mean like a really quick, God bless Alpha Omega Center on your way out the door. I mean people who are really committed to prayer. Praying for our clients, praying for our staff, praying for our board members, because we're under heavy, heavy, heavy spiritual attack. Just the last 6 weeks have been extremely intense at our office as we're seeing people struggle with family crises, with health issues, and it's constant. In fact, I've talked to other people who've been in pregnancy help and who have been in other ministries, and they say that pregnancy help is one of the most difficult ministries to be in consistently because we are really attacking Satan right where he lives, which is the destruction of the unborn. He doesn't like what we're doing, and he's going to do everything he can to shut us down. And the best weapon we have is prayer. We also need people who are willing to volunteer. Right now, we are in need of parenting educators, specifically in our Newcastle office. These moms come in once a week. They watch a video. We're not going to expect you to just teach parenting out of your own brain, but you watch a video with them, you do a worksheet with them, you talk with them, you get to know them, you bond with them. You don't have to be a parenting expert. You just have to be a person who cares about them. And then you get to know them, and they get to know you. And they start to realize that there's someone out there that really cares about them and that cares about their child. Right now, we are only limited on how many families we can help in Newcastle because of how many parenting educators we have. We are actually scared to advertise our Newcastle New Beginnings office because we would not be able to handle the influx. A committed volunteer 1 day a week increases how many families we can serve by 5 a week. That's a big difference. Something else I always put up there is learn more. Maybe you're not sure what we do. Maybe you checked out for half the message. Maybe you're like, wow, what's up with her hair? If you missed things this morning, see, the fact that none of you laughed makes me worry that none of you are paying attention. If you want to learn more about what we do, talk to me after the service. We'll go out, we'll get lunch, we'll get coffee. I can talk to you today, whatever you want. Just ask questions. I'm here to answer for you. But my last challenge is begin today. Don't wait. Don't wait till tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. Wait until you get this under control, that under control, until you finish that, finish this, wrap this up, wrap that up. Just start today. Start figuring out where God has called you and start to watch your faith just blossom. All right, like I said, I'll be around after the service. I didn't put a table out today. I just had to get 4 kids out the door, and that was about the extent of my abilities. But I'll be around if you have questions. I'd love to chat with you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I finished at 11:30, all of you mockers. And now I will close us in prayer. Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this church. Thank you for their commitment to ministry, for their commitment to making a difference in our community. Father, I thank you for this time we had together. I ask you to bless us as we go about our day, ask you to watch over us, and ask you to guide us as we learn what you have called us to do. In your name we pray, amen.